Okay, so everyone was waiting for me to share my thoughts on the 2022 Lexus NX. Well, not everyone. Everyone that's following this channel, I should say. I should be more specific. Anyway, the NX, the new one. Very promising vehicle, because what Lexus has done here is they tried to leapfrog themselves into the minds and hearts of the consumers as well as modern day mainstream car reviewers. So they're trying to make everyone happy, it seems like. And have they succeeded? Well, I don't know. Nobody's had the opportunity to really drive these vehicles yet, but I have personally driven the previous generation, the NX 300H. I will leave a link down to that video in the description box below. But I'm going to start off this video by saying this. The Lexus NX, at least the previous generation, not my most favorite car in their lineup, to be honest with you. I do a lot of little Lexus videos on this channel because there is quite a large following for Lexus cars on this channel, and I do appreciate that. But I will say this, the UX, the NX, and the LS 500H, three cars that I deemed were not really the best work from Lexus. To be honest, really everything else is pretty excellent that they make. And Nick, I know you're watching this, and I know you just recently purchased an NX 300H. I congratulate you, but you got the GS 450H. To make it up for you for what I'm saying here, I will leave your channel link in the pinned comment. So everyone, you should go down, check out Nick's reviews on the GS 450H and the NX. But anyway, what is it that I didn't like about the previous NX? Well, I thought it was a really loud vehicle. I thought there was a lot of wind noise, a lot of road noise, tire noise, all these things going on. It really wasn't the best. Also, the hybrid drivetrain didn't feel very natural to me, honestly. It wasn't really programmed the best. It wasn't as good as, let's say, something like the ES300H, where that was a masterpiece, and the NX300 was a little bit more of a letdown. But I will say this, the previous NX, it handled incredibly well. It was one of the best handling little crossovers for that little segment. I was blown away by how well that vehicle handled, and it was not the F-Sport or anything like that. It was just your ordinary NX300H, so that really impressed me. And also the interior quality in pretty much every Lexus is bulletproof, rock solid. Really love that. So the main things I want Lexus to change here for the 2022 NX was actually the refinement. I would like them to make the vehicle quieter, and in their new press release, they have mentioned that they did try to quiet the interior cabin down further than the previous generation, which is a great thing to hear. Now, I'm not really sure exactly what they did. They didn't really disclose that into too much detail, but one of the main changes they made was making the interior quieter. But I'll actually move on now to probably the biggest thing that everybody wants to hear about, and that is the infotainment screen. So they installed a 14-inch touchscreen that's kind of driver-centric, if you will. Everyone absolutely despised the trackpad, the previous infotainment system. Everyone hated it. Me personally, I had no gripes or any issues with the previous generation touchpad interface system. I actually have the touchpad here in my own personal LC500, and it is actually excellent to interact with. I have no issues with it. It's actually one of my more favorite infotainment systems, to be honest. But here, they listened to all the journalists. They heard everybody complaining. Everybody wants this stupid, dumb touchscreen. They finally gave it to you. And also, the 2022 NX is going to have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So they gave you this big display, and truthfully, it does look good. I do like the way it looks so far in the videos I've seen. Some other people post on it. It does look pretty decent, like a high quality screen. I really appreciate what they did with the climate control, kind of the temperature screen that they have, and it has like the blue to red kind of hue going on. It's really well done. It looks like something that Apple would have done, so that looks really beautiful and stunning. So I'm glad they gave you some knobs there. But again, stuff like the fan speed and I believe the heated and cooled seats, you do have to access the screen for that. But Lexus did say that they really worked on the ergonomics of that screen. They try to make things like the heated seat controls really easy to access. So we'll see about that. But they did give you physical knobs for the volume knob and also a physical button for the defroster. So they deemed that to be very important to give you a physical button for. I wish they would have given you more physical buttons, at least all of the HVAC controls, like fan speed, things like that. I wish all that was physical. Another big feature that Lexus introduced here with the interior of these 2022 NXs oh, you're going to love this, is the 64 interior color choices, or the 14 themes available for the interior ambient lighting. So you know how everybody goes crazy for the Benzes with their little nightclub lights? Well, this new Lexus NX is going to have those crazy lights as well. And you know, as you see here, a lot of this technology that's being introduced with this new NX, it's going to be passed down into other models of Lexus cars as well. So something to keep in mind. You asked for gimmicks and they certainly delivered. Another thing that they've changed with the interior is the gauge cluster, particularly in the F Sports. Everybody loved the kind of mechanical bezel that they have going on with the F Sport models, like the current generation Lexus vehicles, right? Well, that's gone now. No more mechanical moving around screen or anything like that. It's just a fixed digital screen now, which is kind of boring, but it's kind of what everybody else is doing. It is what it is. And that is a 7-inch screen, and you do have a optional 10-inch heads-up display as well, something else that people go crazy for. And the other thing to mention about the 14-inch touchscreen is it will be optional. I think it will be a part of a luxury trim package, so something to keep in mind if you want that, as well as a few other features. You do have to opt for that. Now, pricing has not been released yet, but the current 2021 NX starts around $37,000. But with that screen, you also get over-the-air updates, so that's a good thing. Even if you know, down the road you want to keep this vehicle long term, Lexus will keep updating that screen for you, which is a nice thing. Keeps it current, keeps it modern. Speaking of modern and tech, I don't really like what they did with the door handles. It's not really a handle, it's just a button now that you press. And also the same goes for the inside. You don't really have a latch. Well, you have a latch for emergency purposes, but you just press a button similar to the Corvettes and things like that. Kind of unnecessary, but okay, another change that they happen to make for the vehicle. A slew of new Lexus safety features have also been added. It's called Lexus Safety System 3.0, and I'm just going to show a picture of everything that's included here. You can read up on that. So if you suck at driving, well, there you go. Lexus is really trying to look out for you. And I'm just going to quickly wrap up the interior here. So there seems to be more space, more legroom, more headroom. You would expect that with the model redesign, refresh, if you will. In typical Lexus fashion, I'm sure this is going to age well. There's not going to be any creaks or rattles. It's going to be a solid, well-built interior space. That's something I really complimented with the current outgoing NX. So I'm sure this new one is going to continue that as well, while providing with a lot of the tech that you want. And I forgot to mention, a 9.8-inch screen will be standard. That will be the standard screen size, and it will also be a touch screen, but everybody wants a 14-inch, of course, so everybody's going to offer that luxury package. Okay, so now let's move on to some of the more driving dynamic things, because there's been a lot of powertrain upgrades here, a lot of engine upgrades, essentially. The first thing, okay, the base NX is going to be called the NX 250, and it's pretty much going to use a Toyota RAV4 engine producing 203 horsepower, 184 pounds-feet of torque, and this 2.5-liter RAV4 4-cylinder can be had with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, which is nice, and 0 to 60 times range between 8.2 seconds for the front-wheel drive and 8.6 inches for the all-wheel drive. And this will all be mated to a 8-speed transmission, so no more 6 speeds for the NX, which is what the previous car had. Now, the updated motor will be a 2.4-liter turbo engine found in the NX 300, okay, also mated to an 8-speed. This vehicle will produce 275 horsepower and 317 pounds-feet of torque. So huge power gain over the previous, I forgot what the size of the engine was. I think it was like a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo in the NX 300. So that engine produced like 238 horsepower and 258 pounds-feet of torque, something like that. So this is 275 and 317 and does 0 to 60 in about 6.8 seconds. So this is half a second quicker than the outgoing NX 300, something to keep in mind. This is going to be the engine that most people are going to want. They've also made some dynamic changes to this vehicle, like lowering the center of gravity, and they made improvements to the torsional rigidity of this vehicle through laser peening welding and the addition of high rigidity foam. Very interesting stuff there. Now, there is a plug-in hybrid, but before I talk about that, there's also the NX 350H. So this is kind of your normal hybrid. This vehicle will produce 239 horsepower, which is a nice little increase over the previous 300H that I drove. This is a 20% increase, to be specific. Estimated average MPG has gone up about 6 mpg over the current NX 300. So this vehicle will be getting about 36 mpgs on average. And this car will do about 7.2 seconds to 60, which is 1.5 seconds faster than the NX 300H. So the NX 350H here that you see is a nice upgrade as well to consider. These are the two most common engine options people are going to be opting for, I think, due to the price. But the other more exciting option is called the NX 450H. Now, it is exciting, but it's probably going to cost a premium. The RAV4 plug-in hybrid is going crazy in demand, so I'm sure this will also be crazy in demand. This is also going to be the fastest version of this NX. It's going to be about 6 seconds to 60. And the NX 450H will have a range of 36 miles in electric power only mode. And this vehicle can be fully charged in about 2.5 hours using the optional 6.6 kilowatt expedited onboard charger. With a 3.3 kilowatt onboard charger, the charge time goes up to about 4.5 hours. So charging time's not bad at all. And the 450H will be using a full-time all-wheel drive system that is electronically controlled. So if you need all-wheel drive, well, the 450H will come with that as standard, which is a great thing. Now, as we just saw here, Lexus really worked on the driving dynamics of the 2022 NX, and because of that, they've been able to shove in here some more powerful drivetrain options, like the new turbocharged 350 models, this 450H model as well. And that's great, but driving dynamics was already excellent with the outgoing 2021, 2020 NX that I already tried out. So I'll be interested to see how this vehicle performs out on the road and how it rides as well. Because an F Sport model will also be available, right, with the active variable suspension, which they always like to tout as similar to the LC 500s, right? But in my personal experience, I never really noticed a huge difference between the handling characteristics when I switch between the modes in any of these Lexus models, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, or any ride quality changes. Now, speaking of ride, this car is also going to be rocking some 20-inch wheels if you opt for the F Sport. So previously, 18s were the largest wheel option you could have got with a Lexus NX F Sport. Now they upped it to 20s, and I'm very curious as to how this vehicle is going to ride. If they're so confident that they're going to put 20s on here, I think it is actually going to ride pretty well. Now, overall thoughts on the 2022 NX. I didn't really talk about this much, but the exterior looks are pretty incredible. I love the little subtle changes that they made, especially in the rear end. Nice, clean look. It just says Lexus now on the back, which is actually kind of a copy of what everybody else is doing. They're just kind of going into a more, like kind of what Range Rover does, it's just kind of spelled out there. No more emblems or symbols or anything like that. But aside from that, everything looks great on this vehicle. And the inside, I'm sure everybody's going to appreciate that 14-inch touchscreen, or even the 9.8-inch touchscreen as well. Like I already mentioned, the car handles great, and now they seem to have made even more enhancements to the handling, and you got way more powerful engine options to choose from with this NX. Lexus hasn't really disclosed too many specs on the vehicle, so I don't really know how much it weighs or what kind of suspension it's using, but I'm assuming it's going to weigh about the same as the old NX. So it's about 3,900 to about 4,100 pounds, somewhere in that range. And the previous car used McPherson strut suspension in the front and a double wishbone setup in the rear. They probably are just using that, but kind of retuned it a little bit, right? Main changes I want to see here is I want this vehicle to be dead silent. Okay, I've always said to people, if you can afford it, if you can budget for it, just upgrade to the RX. I really did not think the NX was a vehicle worth purchasing, but now Lexus might have improved it to the point where you could get away with the NX now. It looks promising, but I would have to personally try it to be sure. But the RX, as of right now, the prices are about $8,000 more starting price over an NX. And that's the thing. That's why so many people still go for the NX, because it's priced well, both new and used. So it just makes more sense for most people. But yeah, hopefully with this new car, hopefully they didn't really go crazy with the pricing. Hopefully it doesn't cost more than $40,000 starting or anything like that, but we'll have to see. But yeah, that's just what I want to see. Okay, a quieter vehicle, and I want this vehicle to ride really well. That's all I could really ask for from a Lexus. I know they're going to crush it with the interior. I know it's going to last for a long time. I know it's going to be solid, and They seem to have improved the space as well, which is always very important inside of an SUV. But you let me know your thoughts on the 2022 NX. Is this a vehicle that you are going to buy and purchase? Is this something that you've been looking forward to? Well, let me know, and thank you very much for watching. Take care, and goodbye.